You know, we all use music to unwind or to pump ourselves up, but could actually developing a musical skill have a real connection to our mental well-being? Well, a recent study dug into exactly that, looking at the link between something they call musical sophistication and anxiety levels in university students. So let's dive into what they found.
First, I want you to just look at this number, 80.3%. Think about university life for a second. What do you think this could possibly represent? It's a huge number, and it points to a pretty serious and often unspoken challenge that's happening on campuses everywhere.
And here's what it is. That number is the percentage of students in this study who reported having symptoms of anxiety. I mean, look at how this breaks down. Over 22% reported severe symptoms, almost 30% moderate, and another 28% mild. That means only about 1 in 5 students felt they had no symptoms at all. This really sets the scene for why researchers are so keen to find anything that might be connected to a person's well-being.
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to look a little closer at anxiety on campus. Then we'll unpack what musical sophistication even means. After that, we'll get into the surprising link the study found, figure out which skills really seem to matter, and then we'll wrap up with a super important reminder about correlation versus causation.
All right, first up, let's get a clearer picture of this anxiety problem. It's not just that it's common. The study also found that, it doesn't affect everyone equally.
So when you dig into the data, you start to see some clear differences. The researchers found a couple of statistically significant splits. For one, female students reported much higher levels of anxiety than male students. And also, undergrads reported more anxiety than graduate students, who, might have had more time to develop coping strategies.
Okay, let's shift gears to the other big piece of this puzzle. When you hear a phrase like musical sophistication, you probably picture some kind of piano genius, right? But for psychologists, it's actually a way broader, more inclusive idea than that.
So the official definition they use is that it's a multifaceted construct. All that really means is that it's not just about raw talent or how well you can shred a guitar solo. It's about your entire relationship with music, how you interact with it, how you understand it, and how you practice it. And to actually measure this whole thing, researchers break it down into 5 key areas. There's active engagement, like how often you seek out and listen to music. Perceptual abilities, so how good you are at hearing subtle changes in a melody. Musical training, pretty straightforward, your formal education. Singing abilities, basically, can you carry a tune? And finally, your emotional response to music.
Okay, so now we have our 2 main ideas. This widespread student anxiety on one hand, and this complex idea of musical sophistication on the other. And this is where the study connects the dots in a way I don't think many people would expect.
The central finding really boiled down to this question. It suggested an inverse relationship, kind of like a seesaw. The data pointed to a pretty clear pattern. As scores in certain musical skills went up, reported anxiety levels tended to go down.
And this table here really lays it all out. What the researchers found was a statistically significant negative correlation. That's just a fancy way of saying that as scores went up in these musical areas, general sophistication, perceptual abilities, training, and singing, anxiety symptoms tended to go down.
But here's the twist. Not every part of musical sophistication showed this connection. So, the really important question becomes, which specific skills were the ones that actually seemed to matter? Let's zoom in on that.
The 3 big ones that really stood out were these: perceptual abilities, which is all about your brain's ability to process music, then musical training, the actual time and effort you've put into learning, and finally, singing abilities, so your confidence and skill in using your own voice. The common thread here, these are all things that require active practice and skill building. And hey, you don't just have to take my word for it. Here's a quote directly from the researchers summing it up perfectly. They say these specific skill-based parts of musical sophistication seem to be modestly associated with lower anxiety. And that word modestly is key. It means the connection is there, it's real, but it's not some magic bullet.
So this naturally begs the question, right? What about the other ways we interact with music? What about just putting on our favorite album or having a song move us to tears?
And this is where it gets really fascinating. The study found no significant statistical link between anxiety and just active engagement or emotional responses. So in this study, just listening to a lot of music or feeling it deeply wasn't connected to lower anxiety. The link was specifically with the skill-based stuff.
Okay, now, before we all run out and sign up for cello lessons thinking it's a cure for stress, we have to talk about the absolute #1 rule of interpreting research like this. It is the classic mantra you hear all the time: correlation is not causation. A correlation just means that 2 things were seen happening together.
Causation means we have proof that one thing makes the other happen. And this study found a correlation, not causation.
So, to be crystal clear, what this research shows is an association, a connection. It does not prove that taking music lessons causes a reduction in anxiety. It could easily be the other way around. Maybe people who are less anxious are just more likely to stick with musical training. Or maybe some totally different factor influences both. This study is a fantastic first step, but it's not the final word.
So, with that really important dose of reality in mind, what are the big ideas we should actually walk away with after this deep dive into music and the mind?
All right, let's do a quick wrap-up. Number 1, anxiety on campus is a really big deal. 2, musical sophistication is way more than just talent. It's a whole range of skills. 3, higher levels of those skill-based areas are connected to lower reported anxiety. And 4, and this is the big one, this is an association, a really fascinating clue for more research, not proof that one causes the other.
Which leaves us with a final question to chew on. The study made a clear distinction between passively listening to music and actively building a skill. It really makes you wonder. When it comes to our own mental well-being, is it possible the key isn't just in what we play through our headphones, but in the things we choose to practice and master?